Welcome to Mick and the Psychic, where we leave no stone unturned as we explore all things outside the apparent physical realm.
There is no intent to teach or make you believe or disbelieve anything. It is just a safe space to listen and explore with us.
So for this next episode, you have permission to open your heart and mind as you join myself and Xavier on this deep dive into the unknown.
Conscious, connected breathwork, different ways of releasing us from the thinking mind. And the more we breathe, we then start microdosing DMT.
As far as crystals go, we have a very sparkly guest today on our show. We've got Frankie. Now, Frankie's an entrepreneur, a breathwork facilitator, and inner guidance coach. Now, Frankie has said to us that he failed year 10 at school. Oh my gosh. But that wasn't the end of the story. Started his first business at 21, but never dealt with childhood trauma and became a workaholic and very disconnected. So at 50, after going through his second divorce, well, that doesn't sound like a fun journey, felt like it was time to change. And now we're seeing this sparkly character, though, named Frankie. And I've got to say, Frankie, I've wanted to have you on the show.
Yes.
I've actually been to Centre of You in Paran, which you helped bring to life with Grace. And we've had Grace on the show as well. You'll be happy to know. And I was just struck by your calm presence within that space. You weren't even running any workshop, you were just there. And what came forward was this, I'm not saying old as in you are old, but this old presence, this very still, gentle presence. And when I looked into your background and the fact that you've done a lot of breath work and that inner guidance stuff, I just thought straight away, we have to have you on to Mick and the Psychic to ask more about not just your journey of how you got here, but like what some of these, breathwork techniques take you to and that sort of thing. So with that very strange introduction, welcome Frankie to Mick and the Psychic.
Woo!
Thank you.
It's beautiful to have you.
Yeah. And you're looking very, very cool with your sunglasses, even though you don't think you're trying to look cool, for those who are watching.
Well, thank you. And as you said, these are just because of the laser surgery, and I can't keep that eye.
Okay. So for anyone that's just listening, Frankie's got some very cool Stevie Wonder looking glasses on, and he's quite unable to take on too much light at the moment.
It's so shiny, he can't even look at himself. So
but he's shedding light. Yeah. So Frankie, I'd love to start with, I guess, your journey for. You can go from the start if you like, but even going from someone that's an entrepreneur and, so much work that goes into building businesses and picking them up to going into a more, I don't know, feels like maybe a shamanic lifestyle or.
Yeah. So I guess within shamanism, it's really, a lot of it's about connection to the planet, connection to earth. And, for me as a child, I was always, running through paddocks, and, my choices of pets were different to most other people's. Like I would have lizards as pets, and I would have my one pet that I had was a duck called Percy.
Oh, wow.
And as a result of having Percy, I can still speak fluent duck today. So
that's amazing.
I would get home from school at like the age of 6 and go to the backyard, and then Percy would run up to me and be nibbling my toes, and Percy would be like, oh
my gosh.
And,
wow.
and we would have this conversation together.
Wow.
And it was just this beautiful relationship. And yet one day, then that relationship led to one of the most traumatic things that I experienced when I was young, was when I got home from school, and the next door neighbour's Doberman had jumped over the fence, and the whole backyard was just blood and feathers.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh. Wow.
And my father at the time, he's just like, suck it up, this is, it was only a duck,
Yeah.
and so that was really, like through our lives and through our childhood, and sometimes we can't remember those things. And for many years, I'd actually blacked out that day.
Yeah.
But that trauma affects us. And a lot of us with childhood trauma in particular, we block it out, but it's still stuck in our being, even though we can't remember it. And that can happen.
Carry the energy of it.
All sorts of levels. And sometimes we just want to leave those things there. And sometimes we want to, delve into them, in later life to, get connected with ourselves. But yeah, and for me, school in particular was quite traumatic because I'm dyslexic. And so, the whole school curriculum is basically around, reading and writing.
Yeah.
And if you're not good at reading and writing, most subjects you're not going to get good marks at. The only subject that I did get good marks at was in maths and numbers. So, numbers, it's sort of like I couldn't read a book, but you could put a complex maths question in front of me and I could read that.
You could read maths. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you read numbers. Yeah.
And so all our brains are wired differently. And so, and within the way education is in Australia, obviously, if you can't read and write, then there's a lot of subjects that you're not going to be good at.
You're not going to progress. Yeah.
Yeah. And so my year 10 report card was that I'd failed, and that rather than recommending I even do year 10 again, was that, we recommend that Frank goes and seeks a trade.
Wow.
Funnily enough, the company that I'd done work experience with contacted me because I'm out of the blue. This company said, "Oh, do you want a job?" They let me stay on there, and I worked for them for 5 years and left there at 21, which was when I decided to start up my first business, which was a small business, and it was actually in competition to what they were doing, making printing inks and stuff. So sort of everything. So from that 16 to then having to work till 21 for that company and then starting my first business, I then just went into this whole just working long hours, connected into, the numbers and the money and everything else. But, there were big aspects of my life that, partly because of the trauma. So it was easier to leave that trauma behind of young Frankie.
Yeah.
And, moving into Frank, who, was in control of what he was doing. And so, I was just working and, in my 20s, like working and partying hard,
Was it leaning into a more confident side of yourself, whereas the younger self that was more free maybe was held back with some traumas and experience being told you're not good enough?
So but only being with the confident aspects.
Yes.
And totally just ignoring
the
parts where there might be hurt.
And
so really becoming very avoidant of feelings, which then led into, you know, not very good relationships, addictions, you know, then being a businessman and having power, addictions in, you know, when traveling around the world, you know, working girls, drugs, alcohol, you know, so
The whole plate.
yeah, basically.
I'll have a bit of all of that, he says.
Yeah, yeah. And so,
Goodness.
and then, you know, I've got two beautiful children, who my daughter's birthday was just a couple of days ago. They're like the shining lights of, you know, my life. They, you know, happened along within a marriage, which then broke down, and then we had another marriage, and that's broken down. And that the second marriage really broke down because I'd got to that point where I'm like, I'm just not happy, and I just need to change things. And so one day I was at Design Group, which is one of my businesses where I still employ today 200 people.
Wow.
And I sent myself an email resigning. It was just at that point where I'm just like,
wow.
I'm just like, my second marriage was, you know, on the rocks, and that sort of pushed that marriage over the edge because of me.
Yeah.
I felt like my soul, you know, like there was, you know, in shamanic terms, you know, there's lost soul parts or whatever that, you know, or parts that have been pushed down. And so it's sort of, let's say, it's just feeling uneasy within ourselves.
Did you have like,
Might not be all the time, but it's,
yeah,
it's like sometimes you're just like, you know, is this really where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing?
that's right. I feel like a lot of people listening would totally relate to this because we get brought up and raised to go and find a job and be successful, make lots of money. The more you study, the more you'll make, you know, that kind of thing's embedded into us. So just for the sake of maybe the people listening and watching, did you feel like you had like a defining moment when you're like, what am I doing? Or was it just like a slow build up? Like, was there a straw that broke the camel's back? Or was it just like kept building up and you had repetitive thoughts, which is probably your intuition saying,
Yeah,
it's like,
I think,
what do you think it was?
I think definitely what broke the camel's back was really, I'd made the decision that I wanted to do less, and, you know, rather than being a human, I felt like I was a human doing rather than a human being.
Ooh, I love that saying.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a human being is being something.
Yes.
Human doing is just
Functioning.
functioning and just do this, do that. Like it's like a robot. The robot does things, you know. My kettle boils water for me. It's a doing.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing for just anyone listening just to think about, like doing a mini meditation or just stopping there and thinking, am I a human being more than a human doing?
That's
Like,
right.
like let's assess where you're at.
And I think then the fact that scared Maria, and then caused that divorce, actually, you know, it was the best thing for me because it meant that I could fully spend time just connecting with myself rather than just sort of, you know, going halfway. And so, you know, I spent, you know, then I for quite a few years, I was just like doing training after training, this training, that training, you know, like, you know, yoga teacher training, Reiki training, shamanic breathwork training, this train, that train. Like, was
Throw it
like,
at me. Yeah.
I was like the training man.
We love interviewing experts from different fields about all things outside the apparent physical realm.
And the one constant is these phenomena are transmitted through energy.
So we sought out and teamed up with Subtle Energy Science
To bring you, our listeners,
energetic encoded technology you can use on your phone, laptop, computer, or tablet.
turning your device into a powerful personal quantum energy tool. Now, we're not the creators, or are we qualified enough to explain it at all, but there is a mind-blowing number of scientific studies available on their website.
We get to try the range ourselves so we can give an honest review. And until the end of April, we've got 20% off The Mystic with promo code MATP-861.
And I love using the Mystic. I love it more than anything else. And I notice it really helps if you want to open up your heart or tune in to a deeper awareness.
Now back to the show.
I guess part of my whole journey is then, you know, I guess I made my full-time job for quite a while, learning new things. You know, like I'm a registered hypnotherapist with the American Board of Hypnotherapy. I do NLP.
Right at your brother. We're brothers. Excellent.
There you go.
What a fraternity.
And so for me, I love learning different things now. And it's funny because like that aversion that I had to like just putting to side anything to do with written word and things like that. You know, I love setting myself challenges. And so, you know, all of a sudden I'm like, you know, I've studied these different things. So I'm going to start doing like at Centreview, when I'm in Melbourne, like every probably third week, I do shamanic soul journeys, which are different to the breathwork journeys, which are a bit of breath activation. But then I'm reading scripts that I've written that are like an hour long, and it's sort of like a guided meditation slash yoga nidra slash hypnotherapy thing. So, and
wow.
They're all Venn diagrams, right?
Different topics. And so
yeah,
I've challenged myself to be able to write these scripts and then be able to, you know, I haven't got to the point where I can memorize the hour-long scripts, but then doing and reading spoken word, which, you know, as a 15-year-old, there's nothing worse than standing up in class and having to read something. You know, so
if it's not your strength,
no, it's not. But like now, I'm just like I'm happy playing with, you know, and you know, so it might be on, you know, one I'll do them on different topics. Might be past life regressions I'll do, or you know, just in general letting go of certain emotions or whatever. And I get nearly as many people coming to those classes as I do to breathwork classes these days. So, and they're just like little week. Originally, I said to Grace, "Look, I just want to do this. I want to play with it." Just started doing them, and then quite often 20 people turn up, and half the time they think it's breathwork. But then
what they needed, I guess.
One is shamanic soul breathwork, and one's shamanic soul guided journey. And I think sometimes people turn up to the wrong one, but it's kind of good because then they're like, I didn't know you did this as well. So.
I feel like it comes back to, again, us putting labels on things. Part of the stupidity about putting labels on things is when you put a label on something, it's like you know what that is, and that's why you've put a label on. And our strongest tool you think you've learned in guiding people into that inner, being able to go within, people that are very head-minded in things, to be able to slow down and go within?
So for me, it is using different breath techniques.
Yes.
So even as I'm guiding people through a guided meditation, rather than necessarily coming down the stairs as we normally do in hypnosis, it'll be, you know, taking a breath in and letting that go as you step down, another breath in, let's take another step deeper.
Beautiful.
To ourself, And so it's leading people still down the pathway into themselves and getting to that space of not being fully awake, not being asleep. So the hypnagogic state of the in-betweenness, where the thinking mind is not necessarily analysing everything that's coming through.
Yep.
Yet you're not asleep, and then the unconscious and the subconscious can absorb different new ideas that it can bring into the body. And so that's sort of, it's this, you know, and I think everybody's brain is wired slightly differently. So what works for one person might not work for another person.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
But we all breathe. So there's some things that, because we're human, a certain process will work because we're human and we have the same physical structure. So with breath work, it's very interesting because we all breathe. And so doing certain things with a breath will do something very similar with everyone, surely. What is it about breath work that has such an impact on people's thoughts or experiences?
Well, the magic of
the magic
connected breath work for a period of time is, you know, people can say this breath work's better than that breath work and blah, 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 blah. You know, pranayama, which is yogic type breath work, that's sort of a different box, but conscious connected breath work, whether it's whatever label we want to put it, biodynamic, alchemy, shamanic breath work, holotropic breath work, they are all just different ways of releasing us from the thinking mind. And the more we breathe, we then start microdosing DMT via our pineal gland into our brain. And that's the magic of breath work. It's that microdosing of the DMT into, So that's when the let go happens, and that's when, you know, emotions can come up. That's when, you know, or we can get in the cold water and it's not going to affect us. And
Sorry, hang on. I hate cold. I can breathe my way into coping with cold water better.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So you're saying that there's a chemical action that happens when you consciously do something with your breath to change how you're breathing.
So conscious connected breath for a long period of time, and you know, and it varies. Like, you know, it used to be when I was running breathwork sessions, I wasn't happy unless everybody was really. But everybody's at different fitness levels.
Of course,
and so
they pass out.
And like for some people, if they're super fit, they have to actually breathe more.
Yes.
And because the blood's got to, and the muscles are, you know, like the blood's not going through the muscles as fast. So whereas, you know, so I don't judge people now on, you know, how much air they're bringing in and out. I just want them to connect their breath and breathe a bit more than they would normally breathe.
Okay.
And then, like once they've been breathing like that, you know, first they might get crab. I don't know if you've done breath work and your hands go a bit funny, and you know, that's sort of an indication of, you know, that you're moving a lot more oxygen. But it is that increasing the oxygen in the blood that then enables the pineal gland to release.
So is it the physicality of the breathing, or is it the consciousness connecting to it, or is it both?
It's the it's both. It's like you can't do one without the other. So it's like you're breathing that way, and it's because the difference too is that where then breathing the body's just not breathing by itself. So because we're thinking about the breath, the byproduct is that we microdose DMT into our pineal gland. Well, our pineal gland microdoses DMT into our brain.
And for those who don't know, not everyone listening would know what a pineal gland is or does. Can you please explain? Would be important.
So like in the mystics would say, "Oh, my third eye opened up." So what is now where they realize where this third eye is? So the pineal gland is in sort of just above the eyes, inside the middle of the brain. And you can, if anyone wants to Google that, they can Google that.
It'll help you with your, if mystics and psychics is something that I talk about too, with when I notice someone's pineal gland. I say pineal because what did you say?
Well, people pronounce it different.
Yeah, I say pineal gland. Because I don't know how to say it. But I would see it.
Pineal,
pineal,
because there's a lot of American facilitators that talk about it.
Yes.
That's right.
So I would see it maybe calcified. And so it might help facilitate some healing to clear that. But I love the idea that I had no idea. I'm learning. I love this at Breathwork. Wow, like it's like DMT, like drugging it up, like opening it up and relaxing it, and that which then turn to me I would assume would help open your third eye and your connection to intuition, which is fantastic. Helping you make guided decisions from that instinct. So I just wanted to explain that to people so they understand why would that be important and why would you want to do that.
And it's very different to then having, and I think I recommend anybody that wants to do plant medicine at least do breath work and other things first, so that they have, even though it's going to be a little insight to what would happen if having plant medicine, but because I think that the difference is with breath work and things like that, it's sort of almost like we change our physiology as well, because we have to, we don't, it's probably the difference between, running 10Ks or just getting an Uber to take us 10Ks. Like having plant medicine is like, the Uber, like I get there and then I have the experience, whereas, having to do the work to get there is an experience, and it's part of the journey to get there as well.
So do you think with that you can bring more back from, say you have a psychedelic experience from some plant medicine, do you feel like if you are trained to do some of that naturally, you're more likely to be able to bring something back from that experience rather than just, I had that and it was a bit trippy and whatever, it doesn't.
So just getting high, channeling.
I think, well, from speaking for myself, and I know from other people that have like done a lot of breath work, they found that for them then doing plant medicine, they didn't feel out of control. Like some people do plant medicine and they have bad experiences because they don't know
not ready
where
for it
going, and they can't guide where they're going. Whereas by having microdosed our own natural DMT into our brain, then we have, it's sort of like learning to walk before you run sort of thing, having plant medicine. Some people will microdose plant medicines. That's another way of doing things. But for me, it's like it's a good precursor to doing plant medicine, rather than plant medicine's cool and it's going to fix me. I'm just going to have some plant medicine, which is what you see in mainstream society. It's because we're attuned in Western culture to, there's something wrong with me, fix it. this drug will fix this problem. I've got a headache, I'll have Panadol. I've got emotional problems, I'm going to go and have an ayahuasca journey.
Yeah, you're outsourcing your healing again, even though you're doing something.
Come on.
Yeah,
That's what people listening going, that is nature.
I'm all for it, and I've been through and I've done different plant medicines, and I enjoy the experience and have had great insights and learnings. But
you found something even better, is what you're.
Well, I don't say better or worse.
Okay.
I don't use those words.
Yep.
For me, they're both experiences.
Yes.
And so, yeah, to me, an experience is an experience.
Yeah, that's great.
And I guess, if anything, it's something that's more accessible and sustainable. So if everyone can breathe, they just need to learn how to do breath work. But you've already got the tools there, right? Unless you don't, and then you've got other issues going on, and that's okay. But so, for you, is this something that you think is available to people that are trying to explore more outside of their current physical existence, to try some breath work to connect with something? Like, you're talking about microdosing dimethyltryptamine. That's pretty big stuff. Is this something that people, if they're interested, they can learn to do, to access something higher
100%,
outside?
yeah. Look, there's 100, and it's not to say that the first, a lot of people, the first time they do breath work,
I didn't trip out.
They're so scared of breathing too deep.
Yeah.
But then, as I said, I just don't judge it anymore, because I've had people that in classes, and they're breathing and they're screaming and they're releasing and then other people that have just laid there and just looked like they were shallow breathing and not actually breathing. And then at the end of the session, the one that didn't have the outside looks that they were having, this, it's like come out of it and go, wow, that was like, I've just been enlightened and I've got this new vision for my life and I've got this. And then the other person that was screaming and beating up a pillow and everything else, it's out. Yeah, it didn't do much for me.
It was a bit flat.
I didn't feel anything. So
everyone's experience is their own, isn't it?
Yeah. And with shamanic breath work, so we actually draw a picture after the session.
Wow. Okay.
Rather than, and then we just share our picture. It's so we draw the picture, and then sometimes people pick up that picture and they go, and they're sharing that with the group, and I can't even remember drawing this.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's sort of and what intuitively is the picture telling you? And then, so, because sometimes, having somatically, just having our body just draw, the thinking mind doesn't have to think as much, because the body's doing that as well. And so it's a very good way of, and it stops people then going into story. So, because the alternative is everybody shares their experience of their breathwork session. And for some people that will start, well, for the first 5 minutes, I felt nothing. And then I was just bored, and then you have this, 40-minute breathwork, and we end up with an hour-and-a-half story based on 45-minute breathwork.
Yeah.
So the pictures are really good.
So the pictures are kind of
but it's a shamanic sort of way of doing that, because that's feel like the body is more in tune, and it's sort of, and then I encourage people to keep those pictures. I've still got a pile of stuff from when I was first starting to do breathwork, and they still tell me stories.
That's
You know,
really unique. I've never seen that before. And I
Yeah.
love that because you're getting everyone to do it straight after. Whereas if you sit in the circle and wait to take your turn to share, you're hearing people's stories, you're kind of forgetting, you're losing the connection with what just happened for you by the
Yes.
time it gets around to you, and then you might not remember it. Like, so that way, if you've already all drawn it at the same time, they might have
Yeah.
forgotten what it was about, but then you can reconnect to it again. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then if I'm not doing that, then I'll do an inner guidance process.
Okay.
So we talked about inner guidance. So what I love about inner guidance is it's a very simple way of working with people. And then, so, you know, and within a guidance, Amara Samartha, who's she's based in Bali, she's developed this, and she does a lot of it's used for coaching a lot in different aspects. And so I use it in my coaching, but there's part of inner guidance which is really just, you know, 9 questions, and each question just leads on one from the other. So we'll finish the breath work, or we'll finish whatever we've been doing, and then the first question is, you know, what I really want is. And so we're then at a point within our being where it's like, what I really want is, you know, the pizza. No, but to do with life. So, and then, you know, then it's like, what's holding me back is. And so we just get these very simple questions, and they're just one-line answers that we can give ourselves. And after people have gone through that, like I've had people come to me, you know, months after a session where we've done an inner guidance process, and, you know, people are like, I've got that pinned to my wall, or you know, I look at it all the time because it's now, that's how I've set up, like where I want to get to. Because after we've done breath work and after we've done other things, we've peeled off all the layers, and then the inner guidance process just asks some very simple things of just radical honesty with ourselves. We don't have to write it down. We write it down, and then, but with that, because it can be so personal, I'll then just get people to sit with one other person.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
They can mirror to each other, because sometimes it would be too daunting for people then to share in a group of, you know, what they're, they're real deep
stuff.
And so
great tips there.
What I love about the inner guidance work is that it really, you know, and I came across Amara first at Bali Spirit Festival when they were still running it. Hopefully they're going to run it this year, prior to all the lockdowns and everything else. So I think it was in 19 was the last time, and Amara was she did a big group with inner guidance, and it was just like that. To me, it was just so simple. It just really got me focused on, you know, what do I really want?
And again, it comes back to what you're talking about, holding a safe space and deliberately making that space safe for people to explore, and honesty within that they haven't been able to do themselves. And often we need some kind of catalyst or some kind of intervention to be honest with yourself, because not being honest with yourself is, like, you could say that's a bad thing, but it's helped you survive up until now. And it's just about when it gets to a point where it no longer serves you, that you can deal with it, but you need some kind of intervention to do that, because you've done a good job of holding it back.
Yeah, for sure.
It's nearly, you can congratulate yourself for holding it back that long so that you can survive this time. It's now just time to move on. Yeah. I'm interested just with, why do you think that this program we have in the human body that we can access through breath work to release certain DMT. Is this something that you think is like innate for survival reasons, or do you think this is something a little more, for better use of the word, a divine design for us to explore deeper?
Oh, I think it is both.
Right.
Fight or flight is there for a reason.
Yeah.
We were, more primitive versions of what we are now, like lion, run.
Good advice. Hang on, I'm writing that down.
That's what fight or flight was.
Mm.
But now our brain is, bully at school is the lion, or somebody pushing in a line in front of you is, it's a trigger. And so we still get triggered by things that would but in nature, when we were in nature, it was for survival. It was a lot, we still, for a lot of us, we still have those effects now as though it's for our survival. Yet it really is just somebody being rude, and it's their issue, not our issue.
Yes.
Or whatever. And it's like, but it can still create that reaction in us.
So are there things we can do with breath outside of, I think a lot of people are interested now, like, oh, wow, releasing DMT. I'm going to go see someone for breathwork, whether it's Frankie or someone else. It sounds like fun.
Yeah. There's lots of breathwork facilitators.
I love it. Yes, I love it. But is there something simple we can do? When you're driving the car, people get white line fever when they play sport or they're in the car. Nicest people ever. They get behind the wheel and they lose their shit over someone pulling in front of them. I'm not saying you, Xavier. I'm just saying there's
me. That's my weakness.
Something you can do simply outside of breath work with your own breathing that can help beforehand.
There's other forms of breath work. So there's breath work for that. Yeah. But a very simple, in 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4. But we can just do it. You want to just do it?
Yes, absolutely.
A little practice now. So just close your eyes. So just to calm down, the system. So just breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, slowly in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, slowly out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Now I just want you to feel into your body. Take a slow, deep breath in. And open your eyes. And how do you feel?
Chill.
Very chill. It's amazing we have the ability to just slow everything down just by deliberately breathing.
And we can do, that's very simple. And at any time when we get overactive or overstimulated, it's a very easy way just to, okay, I need some time, go to the toilet.
Yeah.
You can, once you know how to do that, you can just do it while you're driving your car. You don't have to close your eyes. Ideally with your eyes open if you're in public. But people don't even need to know.
That's right.
You're in a big
pelvic floor exercises.
Yeah, sometimes there might, you might be in a bit of a hurry, and then all of a sudden there's people in front of you or whatever, and it's like it does, you know, and once you can tell yourself, it doesn't really matter if I get somewhere a few minutes late or
That'll
whatever.
just slow you down. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was always because I used to travel
You
overseas.
got
And
planes to catch.
I still do. And so I was always, I don't know, there was a movie, I think, with George Clooney where he was like the guy that knew how to weave in and out through the
Yeah, I think I remember. Yeah.
airports and stuff. That's me. Like I'd just be always looking for like the quickest ways through.
Your belt's off, your shoes are off, it's in a tray, you're through,
Yeah.
you're walking off, and people are still going, is this border okay? They're still there.
Yeah. That was totally me. But
Yeah.
sometimes you get to an airport and there's like all these people there.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and this was sort of as I was starting, you know, it used to really trigger me. And then as I was starting to do some mindfulness stuff, it was like, oh, this is an opportunity to connect with myself. So now I've got this great opportunity in this queue to just do a little bit of, you know, just drop into myself. You know, it's, yeah.
That's amazing. And that's easy to remember too, the four.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you've got to remember some sequence. That's a very simple thing everyone can do now, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it's just keeping that slow inhale, the hold, slow exhale, hold.
Yeah.
And it is very calming.
Yeah.
It's a great one for people that have trouble going to sleep as well. Because you can just focus on that for a while, and then you focus on it, and then all of a sudden you just fall asleep because you've just dropping. Yeah.
And practicing it would make it easier. Like for example, I've tried that one before, the 4-4-4. Except when you breathe out and then hold it again, I feel like I'm going to run out of breath, even though I know it's only 4 seconds, because that feels uncomfortable to me, which is also why I don't like the idea of scuba diving.
Right. And so for you, I would then recommend, like, it doesn't have to be 4.
Okay.
Maybe do a 3. Try a 3.
1 second might make a difference, and then I feel more in control of it then, instead of going to tiny, it's like a half a second of panic.
Exactly. So because our lung capacity is all different. We're all
I'm a bit asthmatic too, so I can't run.
So you know, for you, try it as a 3 count.
Yeah, okay, I'll try.
And you know, like, you know, when
that's really nice to know, because people get very rigid on the rules, and they think, oh, I have to do it like this, I'm doing it wrong, and then they start thinking about, I stuffed it up, I felt like, so that's really, it's not a set rule.
And with any breath work, I just say to people, if you're alive, you're breathing. So
that's really good.
So we don't stuff it up all day long. So
yeah, that's true.
We can all breathe.
Yeah. And if you think, like, when we run, our body changes its breath automatically, doesn't it? We don't actually then have to think about it.
Yeah, it's automatic.
Because the body is still trained in that, the breath that it needs to do when we run or when we're doing any form of exercise. Whereas for some reason, the body, you know, once we do this sort of work enough, then the body will then automatically go, oh, I'm triggered by this. I'm going to just start doing some slower breaths to bring me back. So the more you practice, the more you then find that you'll just naturally change physiology. So, you know, we do it at fight or flight, but we can do it at rest and digest as well. We can bring ourselves to rest and digest. So, and it's just, once it's sort of like, you know, when you learn to write with a pen, like, it's hard to learn to train to do something new, or to play tennis, or anything that we do the first few times. It's like, oh, this is hard. Once it's in the body and we understand ways to relax and let ourselves relax, then we can do that with the breath easily anytime.
Goodness me. Well, Frankie, we've learned so much today. It's like so fun
We're so thankful.
learning and listening and being in your space. Like I love it when I go in a bit not knowing exactly what to expect. Like depends on who invites a guest. So I didn't know you as well as Michael, and it's been pure joy for me. I really, really enjoyed it, which is what I think our listeners will get out of today's episode too. So thank you so much for being on a show and making time for us, even though you got laser eye surgery this morning. You're amazing.
Amazing. What a servant.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually good to be distracted from wallowing in my poor me with my eyes. So really appreciate the distraction and enjoyed catching up. Thank you.
Excellent. And people can catch you. I think you've got your website, shamanic.soul.space. We'll have that in the show notes as well. But when you operate in Melbourne doing stuff at Centre of You, offerings at Centre of You.
When I'm in Melbourne, 90% of what I do is at Centre of You.
Beautiful.
Which is on Chapel Street, which is a space that Grace and I co-created together.
Awesome.
But one-on-one coaching, people can get in contact with you.
Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time for one-on-ones, but I do definitely still do one-on-one work with people.
Right.
I'm a little bit old-fashioned in the fact that I like personal connection when I'm doing breath work and doing energy work with people. So I prefer one-on-ones, but I have some fantastic friends that do a lot of Zoom breath work one-on-ones.
Oh, that's good. You can hook them.
So I definitely can refer people on to other people as well.
Well, great. Well, we appreciate so much of what you've shared with us already and the little tricks and hints. And I think people are going to be like, wow, I'm dimethyltryptamine. I'm going to have to go out there and do some more workshops. So you've inspired me to do more breathing.
Great.
Thank you, Frankie.
Thank you so much for coming.
Much love.
Okay.
Thank you. That's it for another episode. Thanks to our sponsor, Subtle Energy Sciences. Click the link in the show notes to access their full product range of quantum healing technology.
And thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. We're so grateful for your contribution to keep this podcast going.
If you'd like to join our Patreon, you can receive bonus full episodes, early release, and monthly readings and meditations.
We love to hear from you, so please comment on our YouTube channel or email us at mickandthepsychic@gmail.com.
I'm a certified hypnotherapist and timeline regression therapist. If you wish to contact me to explore the source of an issue you're facing, just book a session at hernhypnosis.com and include the promo code MATP for 10% off. You can contact me on Insta and Facebook at hernhypnosis.
Check out my website at optimisticxavier.com.au if you feel you'd like to connect with me as a psychic medium, spiritual mentor, or intuitive coach. Include the promo code MATP for 10% discount. You can also find me on Insta, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
We look forward to connecting with you again next time as we attempt to leave no stone unturned.
Bye.
All right, cool. I reckon that should be okay.